My name is Bishop Dale Bronner, and I want to welcome you to a place where your faith is strengthened, your vision is sharpened, and your spirit is set on fire again. Here we drink from the well of God that never runs dry. We discover that your refill is the key to your victory, and we watch how renewal restores your focus and your fire. You'll be equipped to rise above adversity, to run your race with joy, and to live with the kind of holy boldness that transforms everything around you. If you've been weary, empty, or distracted, you're in the right place because God has more for you right now. So like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join me on this journey. Together we'll walk in His strength, His clarity, and His unshakable power. When life drains you, when your soul feels parched, and your strength feels like it's leaking away drop by drop, you must understand that there is only one true place where you can be refilled. Not in the noise of entertainment, not in the temporary escape of distractions, not in the shallow comfort of possessions. These things may mask your weariness for a moment, but they cannot heal the deep thirst in your soul. There is a place, and only one place, where your spirit can drink until it is satisfied in the living presence of God. You see, the world has a way of offering substitutes. It tells you that a vacation will fix your exhaustion, that a little more money will ease your anxiety, that a new relationship will take away your loneliness. But what the world offers always runs dry. It cannot sustain you because it was never designed to sustain you. You are not simply a body with needs, you are a spirit with a soul wrapped in a body, and your deepest hunger is spiritual. That means your deepest restoration must come from a spiritual source. When you step into the presence of God, you are stepping into the fountain that never runs out. It is like water for the desert wanderer, like rain on cracked ground. It revives what has been withered. It strengthens what has grown weak. The psalmist understood this when he wrote, "In your presence is fullness of joy." Not a fraction of joy, not a glimpse, but fullness, the kind of joy that seeps into every dry place in your heart and makes it live again. You cannot underestimate what happens when you draw near to Him. It's not just about prayer as a ritual. It's about communion as a lifeline. When you pray, when you worship, when you open your heart to hear His voice, you are plugging into the source of all strength, all wisdom, all peace. Just as a phone that's been drained must be connected to the charger to function again, so must you stay connected to God to keep your life from shutting down under the weight of this world. Life will test you. People will disappoint you. Plans will fall apart. And in those moments you will have a choice to run to temporary comfort or to run to eternal power. If you keep running to the wrong wells, you will keep coming back thirsty. But when you run to Him, you will find that His water satisfies not just for the moment, but for the journey ahead. There are times when God allows us to feel the emptiness so that we stop depending on ourselves. Sometimes He will let you come to the end of your own strength so that you discover the depth of His. It's in that moment when your resources are gone and your energy is spent that you will finally realize that He is enough. He has always been enough. This is why Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." That rest is not found in quitting your job, in changing locations, or in cutting people off. That rest is found in the soul, deep renewal that only He can give. It's rest that strengthens you for the very battles you thought were going to take you out. It's rest that revives courage in the middle of a storm. But you have to come. You have to make the intentional decision to step away from the noise, to quiet the voices that drain you, and to let His voice speak life into you again. This is not a casual invitation. This is a lifeline. God is not just a last resort. He is the only source that never fails. When you come into His presence, you are stepping into the atmosphere of miracles, into the climate of peace, into the reality of His unshakable kingdom. Do not let busyness rob you of this connection. Do not let the demands of others become so loud that you forget to sit at His feet. Even Jesus, the Son of God, withdrew often to be alone with the Father. If he needed that place of refilling, how much more do we? Your strength to endure, your clarity to decide, your power to overcome, all flow from the time you spend with him. And here is the beautiful truth: the more time you spend in his presence, the less the drains of life can pull you under. His presence is not just a place to visit when you are in crisis. It's a place to dwell so that you can live above the crisis. When you stay filled, you are able to pour into others without emptying yourself to the point of collapse. You are able to face trials without losing hope, because hope is no longer something you are chasing, it's something flowing out of you. So if you are weary today, if your spirit feels like it's limping, if you've been running and serving and giving until you don't know how much you have left, stop. Step into the presence of the one who knows exactly how to restore you. Let him pour into you until you overflow. Let him strengthen your heart until it beats with courage again. Let him remind you that you are not meant to survive on fumes. You are meant to live in the overflow of his grace, his joy, and his power. The place where you are refilled is not a physical location. It is wherever you meet with him. It can be in your room, in your car, in a quiet corner, or in the middle of a crowded street where your heart turns toward him. The key is not the place around you, but the posture within you. If you will come to him empty, you will leave full. If you will come to him weak, you will leave strong. If you will come to him thirsty, you will leave satisfied. Because God's presence is not just enough, it is more than enough. And when you have been filled by him, there is nothing this world can do to drain the life he has placed inside you. So come and be filled again. There is a truth that many people ignore until they collapse under the weight of life. You cannot pour from an empty vessel. You cannot keep giving out strength, love, energy, patience, and wisdom without returning to the source that fills you. You can try, and for a while it may seem like you're holding it together. But eventually, when you've been running without refilling, your soul will feel it. Your joy will fade. Your energy will weaken. Your patience will run thin. You will find yourself running on fumes, and when you run on fumes, it's only a matter of time before you burn out. God never intended for you to live like that. He did not create you to survive by barely making it through the day. He created you to live in abundance, to be filled to overflowing. But overflow cannot happen if you're constantly pouring out without replenishing what's inside. A cup that is never refilled will eventually run dry, no matter how much it wants to give. And that's the danger, because when your vessel is empty, you have nothing left to offer. Not to your family, not to your calling, not to the world, and not even to yourself. We live in a culture that celebrates constant output. Work harder, give more, stay busy, be available, keep producing, and yet we wonder why so many people feel exhausted, anxious, and disconnected from God. It's because we've mistaken activity for productivity and busyness for fruitfulness. But God measures life differently. He looks for fruit that remains, not work that drains, and fruit that remains only comes from staying connected to the vine. Jesus made it clear, apart from me, you can do nothing. That is not a poetic suggestion, it's a reality. The branch that is cut off from the vine will wither, no matter how alive it once looked. Sometimes we think we're being spiritual by pushing ourselves beyond the limits God set for us, as though our exhaustion somehow proves our devotion. But that is not the heart of God. He calls us to serve, yes. He calls us to give, yes. But he also calls us to rest, to abide, to be still in his presence. Even Jesus, in the height of his ministry, would step away from the crowds to spend time with the Father. If the Son of God himself knew the necessity of returning to the source, how much more do we need it? When you keep pouring without refilling, your giving changes. It stops being a joyful overflow and becomes a weary obligation. Your love turns into irritation, your peace turns into stress, your patience turns into frustration. You're still moving, but you're moving on empty, and that's dangerous because when you're empty, the wrong things can start filling you. If you're not filled with God's Spirit, the pressures of life will fill you with anxiety, bitterness, and hopelessness. That is why the enemy doesn't just attack your faith, he attacks your filling. He wants you too busy to pray, too distracted to read God's word, too tired to worship, because an empty vessel is easy to break. But when you return to the source, everything changes. You don't just get enough to make it through the day, you get enough to overflow. And overflow is powerful because it means you are not giving from depletion. You are giving from abundance. You're not trying to love people out of your own limited capacity. You're letting God's love flow through you. You're not trying to stand strong in your own strength. You're drawing from His strength, which never runs out. To live in overflow, you must protect your filling. That means making time for God non-negotiable. It means treating your spiritual life like oxygen, something you cannot go without. It means recognizing that saying yes to everything else while saying no to time with Him is not sacrificial, it's self-destructive. The world may not understand why you pull away sometimes, why you guard your mornings, or why you shut down certain distractions. But those who understand the principle of the vessel know that if you don't refill, you cannot pour. Think about this. Even in the Old Testament, the priests were commanded to keep the oil in the lamp burning continuously. The flame was never to go out. That oil represents the presence of God in our lives. The moment we stop replenishing it, the light begins to dim. And when the light dims, everything becomes harder to navigate. But when the oil is fresh, the flame burns bright, and the light shines into the darkness. Some of you have been running for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to be full. You've been functioning on half strength and calling it normal. But God is calling you to more than survival. He is calling you to a life that flows with power, peace, and purpose. And that life begins with returning to Him daily, letting Him fill you until you overflow. Don't wait until you're at the breaking point. Don't wait until you're too empty to move. Refill daily, worship daily, rest in Him daily. Your vessel was made to carry His presence, but it must be filled again and again. And the good news is this: God's supply never runs out. You will never come to Him and hear Him say, "I have nothing for you today." Every time you come, He is ready to pour. Every time you come, He is ready to strengthen, heal, and restore. If you want your life to pour out powerfully, make sure it is filled consistently. Because the world does not need another burn, doubt believer. It needs a believer overflowing with the life of God. So guard your filling, protect your vessel, and keep coming back to the source until every part of you runs over with His presence, His peace, and His power. Weariness is not always the enemy. Sometimes it is the gentle yet urgent signal from heaven that something in your soul needs attention. Feeling tired in your spirit is not a declaration that it's over, not a final judgment over your life. It is an invitation, a call from God to come closer, to lay your burdens down, and to allow Him to be the one who carries you. The world will tell you that weariness means weakness. But in the kingdom of God, weariness can be a doorway into deeper dependence on Him. When you feel that heaviness in your spirit, it is not a sign that God has abandoned you. Often, it is proof that He is drawing you. He uses the emptiness to pull you back into His arms. Just as hunger is the body's way of saying, "You need nourishment," spiritual weariness is the soul's way of saying, "You need His presence." That heaviness you feel is not meant to push you into despair. It is meant to lead you to His rest. We live in a time when people are constantly pouring out energy without pausing to receive. We work, we serve, we run, We fight battles, we hold families together, and we try to keep moving no matter how drained we are. But even the strongest believer can't keep walking without stopping to be renewed. Even eagles must rest between flights. Even rivers have quiet stretches between the rapids. The same is true for the human soul. There must be moments when we stop striving and simply receive from Him. If you ignore weariness, you will push past the signal and break under the strain. But if you respond to it, you will discover that God uses that very moment to minister to you in ways you cannot receive when you are rushing. Sometimes He will allow you to come to the end of your own energy so that you stop relying on your own strength. It is in those low, quiet, exhausted places where you can finally hear His whisper clearly. Think about Elijah. After calling down fire from heaven, after standing boldly against hundreds of false prophets, he found himself weary, running, and wanting to give up. And in that moment, God did not rebuke him for being tired. Instead, He gave him rest. He fed him. He reminded him that the journey was not over. That is the way of our God. He does not discard the weary. He restores them. He does not label your fatigue as failure. He uses it as an opening to pour His life back into you. Your weariness is not a sentence. It is not a permanent condition. It is a signal, a flashing light on the dashboard of your soul that says, "You cannot keep driving like this without coming to the one who can renew you." God does not just want to get you moving again. He wants to fill you so deeply that you rise with new vision, new faith, and new strength for the road ahead. Some of you have been feeling tired for so long that you've started to believe this is just how life will always be. You've gotten used to functioning on empty. You smile, you serve, you keep going. But deep inside you know you are running low. And yet, the same God who raised the dead, who renewed the strength of the weary, who lifted up those who had fallen, is still able to meet you where you are and breathe life back into your soul. Sometimes we try to mask our weariness by adding more noise, more activity, more distraction. But those things only bury the real need. God is not calling you to hide it. He is calling you to bring it to Him. He is saying, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." This is not the rest of quitting, it is the rest of being restored so that you can continue. It is the rest that strengthens you, not the rest that leaves you weak. When you take your weariness to God, He does not just patch you up. He renews you from the inside out. He revives your hope, calms your mind, and gives you a fresh perspective. You begin to see your situation not through the fog of exhaustion, but through the clarity of His truth. You begin to feel peace where there was anxiety, strength where there was heaviness, and joy where there was discouragement. The enemy would love for you to mistake weariness for defeat, because if you believe you are defeated, you will stop moving forward. But God would have you see it as a signal not to stop your purpose, but to stop and refill for your purpose. There is a difference between giving up and being still. Being still is not surrender to the enemy, it is surrender to God. It is saying, "Lord, I cannot carry this alone. I need you to carry me." And the beautiful truth is He will. He has promised to renew the strength of those who wait on Him. They will rise on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. That promise is not for the ones who never get tired. It is for the ones who admit their weariness and come to Him. So when you feel that signal in your soul, do not ignore it. Do not drown it out. Do not push past it. Let it drive you into the presence of the one who restores, who renews, and who strengthens. Because your weariness is not the end, it is the reminder that you are not meant to do this in your own strength. You are meant to walk in His. When you learn to see weariness not as a sentence but as a signal, it changes the way you face it. Instead of feeling ashamed, you feel invited. Instead of feeling hopeless, you feel expectant, because you know that the same God who has carried you before will carry you again. And when He carries you, you will walk again with strength that is not your own, and you will finish the race set before you with joy. No matter how far you have wandered, no matter how deeply you have fallen, no matter how long you have been running on empty, the well of God never runs dry. His grace is not limited, His mercy does not expire, His power is not rationed out in small portions, hoping you will make it last. Every time you come, there is more. Every time you draw near, there is enough to cover you, cleanse you, strengthen you, and lift you up again. You can come broken, you can come weary, you can come empty-handed, and you will never find that the well has been exhausted. This is the nature of God. His resources are not like human resources that diminish over time. People get tired of forgiving, tired of giving, tired of helping, but God does not. He is not a man that He should grow weary of your need. He is not calculating how much He can spare for you without running short for someone else. His well is not shallow, and His supply is not seasonal. It flows endlessly, steadily, powerfully, without pause. Sometimes we make the mistake of thinking we've come to the well too many times. We think, surely God is tired of me asking for the same thing. We imagine that our repeated failures or our long absence has dried up His willingness to receive us. But that is not who He is. He said, "Whoever comes to me, I will never drive away." That means the door is always open. The invitation is always extended, and the water is always flowing. The woman at the well in John 4 came with an empty jar and an even emptier heart. She came at the hottest part of the day to avoid people's judgment, thinking she was just there to get water for her body. But Jesus met her there to give her water for a soul-living water that would never run out. He told her, "Whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst." He was not offering a temporary fix. He was offering an eternal source. That is the same offer extended to you today. There are seasons in life when you may feel as though everything around you is dry, opportunities seem scarce, relationships feel strained, your faith feels thin. But even in the driest desert, the well of God is still full. You may not see the water at first glance, but the source is beneath the surface, ready to spring forth when you call on Him. Sometimes you have to dig past the hard layers of disappointment, hurt, and fear to reach it. But once you do, you will find that His supply has been there all along. The enemy will try to convince you that because of what you've done, you've forfeited your right to the well. He will whisper that you've gone too far, that your mistakes have built a wall between you and God. But grace tears down that wall. Mercy draws you in when guilt tells you to stay away. Power lifts you up when shame tries to keep you down. And it's not just for the first time you come to Him, it's for every time. Whether it's the first drink or the 1,000th, the water is just as pure, just as fresh, just as life-giving. It is not your performance that keeps the well flowing. It is God's character. He is faithful even when we are faithless. He is generous even when we have been careless. He is loving even when we have been distant, and that is why you can always return to Him, because His well is not filled by your worthiness, it is filled by His goodness. But here is the challenge you have to come and draw. The water is available, but it will not force itself into your life. You must humble yourself enough to admit your thirst, to admit your need, to admit that without Him you are dry. The moment you do, He meets you there, and He doesn't just give you enough to barely get by. He gives you enough to overflow, enough to wash away the residue of yesterday's battles, enough to quench the thirst you didn't even realize you had. Some people have been standing near the well for years, but have never drawn from it. They admire it, they talk about it, they even tell others it's there, but they've never bent down to drink for themselves. They live dehydrated spiritually because they have mistaken proximity for possession. Being near the well is not enough, you must drink. You must take in what He is offering, and when you do, something shifts. The dryness begins to fade, the heaviness begins to lift, the cracks in your heart begin to heal, hope begins to rise again. That is what happens when you tap into something that never runs out. It doesn't just satisfy you for a moment. It transforms you for a lifetime. Do not be afraid to come again and again. Do not let pride or shame keep you away. Whether you have been away for a week, a year, or a lifetime, the well is still flowing. You will not find a closed gate. You will not find an empty bucket. You will not find a God who says you've had enough. You will find a Father who says, "Drink deeply, my child. There is more where that came from." So today, if you are dry, if you are weary, if you are burdened by mistakes, or if you simply feel far from the joy you once knew, come back to the well. Let him fill you again with grace that forgives, mercy that restores, and power that strengthens. For his well has no bottom, no limits, no end, and the more you drink from it, the more alive you will become. The well of God never runs dry, and if you will come to it, neither will you. You cannot expect to win the battles of life if you are fighting on an empty tank. You cannot carry the weight of the vision God has given you if your spirit has not been replenished. You cannot walk boldly in your purpose if you have not been renewed in his presence. The victories God has planned for you are not won in the strength of the flesh. They are won in the power of the Spirit, and that power is only found when you take the time to refill. Without renewal, your fight becomes harder, your vision becomes blurred, and your steps become heavy. But when you are filled again in the presence of God, you rise not only to fight but to conquer. The enemy knows this. He knows he cannot stop what God has ordained in your life, so instead he works to drain you. He will load you with distractions, busyness, and burdens until you are too tired to pray, too weary to worship, and too foggy to hear from God, because he knows that a drained believer is a vulnerable believer. It's not that you don't love God, it's that you've been running without returning to the source. And if you fight like that for too long, you will begin to swing at the wrong battles, exhaust yourself in the wrong places, and lose strength before you reach the real fight. Every battle you face is first won or lost in the realm of your spirit. Long before David faced Goliath on the battlefield, he had been filled in the field spending time with God, worshiping in the solitude of the pasture, learning to trust him in the quiet before the crowd ever came. His public victory was born from private refilling. That is the pattern for every true victory. What God pours into you in private will determine how you stand in public. When you are spiritually full, you see differently, you think differently, you fight differently. You don't just react to the attacks of the enemy. You respond with the wisdom, peace, and authority of God. You are not tossed back and forth by every challenge. You are anchored, steady, and immovable. That strength does not come from personality or natural talent. It comes from being rooted in him. Refilling is not a suggestion, it is a requirement for survival. The Word of God is your food, prayer is your breath, worship is your refreshment. Without them, you are starving your spirit while expecting it to carry you through battles you cannot win in your own strength. But when you choose to daily draw from his presence, you are sharpening your sword, strengthening your shield, and preparing your heart for whatever lies ahead. The vision God has placed in your heart is not light. It will require endurance. It will require clarity. It will require faith when circumstances scream the opposite. That is why you cannot afford to let your spirit run dry. When you are full, your vision is sharp. You can see past the obstacles to the promise. You can discern between what looks urgent and what is truly important. You are less swayed by fear and more led by faith. Some of you have been wondering why your battles feel harder lately, why your patience is thinner, why your faith feels weaker. It may not be because the enemy has gotten stronger. It may simply be because you have been fighting without a refill. Even the strongest warrior will fall if they go too long without replenishing their strength. But the moment you return to his presence, strength rises again, courage rises again, victory becomes possible again. There is something powerful about fighting from a place of fullness. It means you are not just trying to survive the attack, you are positioned to win. You are not just defending yourself from what is coming at you, you are advancing toward what God has promised you. And the strength for that kind of victory only comes when you are filled. It is not enough to have had an encounter with God last month, last year, or 10 years ago. Yesterday's strength is not enough for today's battles. Manna had to be gathered daily in the wilderness, not stored up, because God wanted his people to learn to depend on him fresh every day. The same is true for you. You must keep coming back, keep drawing, keep letting him fill you again. And when he fills you, he doesn't just restore what was lost, he equips you with more. He gives you fresh strategy for your battles, fresh passion for your purpose, fresh hope for your journey. You begin to fight not as one who is barely hanging on, but as one who knows the victory is already secured in Christ. You fight with boldness. You walk with confidence. You carry the atmosphere of heaven into the situations you face. Do not underestimate what happens when you make his presence your priority. That time you spend refilling is not wasted time, it is winning time. It is the place where your heart is fortified, your mind is renewed, and your spirit is clothed with power. Skipping that time may seem small in the moment, but it will cost you greatly in the fight. Protect it, guard it, value it, because the truth is, victory does not happen by accident. It happens when you are prepared, when you are armed, and when you are filled. And you cannot be filled unless you come to the one who is the source of every victory you will ever win. If you feel weary, if your vision feels dim, if your fight feels weak, this is not the end, it is the signal to refill. And when you refill in his presence, you will rise again with the strength to conquer what once seemed impossible. For the battles ahead, for the vision within you, and for the purpose upon your life, your refill is the key to your victory. When God fills you, he doesn't just restore your strength so you can keep walking, he reignites the fire inside you so you can run. There is a difference between surviving and truly living. You can move through life tired, distracted, and weighed down, just trying to get through the day. Or you can live with a heart that burns with passion, clarity, and joy for the race God has set before you. And that difference is found in renewal. When the Lord breathes into you again, he doesn't simply help you endure the journey. He restores the very excitement and purpose that made you start running in the first place. Life has a way of dulling your fire if you are not careful. The constant demands, the unexpected disappointments, the weight of responsibility, they can slowly drain the very passion that once propelled you forward. You begin with clear vision, but over time the lens becomes clouded. You start with a heart on fire, but the embers cool as life keeps pulling at you. That's why you must continually return to the one who not only gives you strength, but also restores your focus. Because when your focus drifts, your fire dims, and when your fire dims, you start running slower, losing the urgency, losing the joy, losing the sharpness of your calling. The enemy loves to attack not only your strength, but also your focus. Because if he can't stop you from running, he will try to make you run in the wrong direction. If your eyes are not locked on what God has placed before you, you can waste years chasing what doesn't matter, pouring energy into distractions, and missing the very assignment that carries your destiny. But when God renews you, he also clears your vision. He reminds you of what matters, of what you were created for, of what he put in your spirit before the world ever tried to pull you off course. When renewal comes, you don't just feel stronger, you see clearer. You begin to notice the opportunities God has placed in front of you that you couldn't see through the haze of exhaustion. You can discern between the voice of God and the noise of the crowd. You can hear his direction in the middle of chaos. And with that clarity comes a rekindling of passion, that inner fire that makes you press on even when the road is hard. Think of Elijah after Mount Carmel. He had just experienced one of the greatest victories of his life, calling down fire from heaven, proving the power of the living God. But not long after, fear and exhaustion drove him into the wilderness, ready to give up. He didn't just need food for his body. He needed renewal for his spirit. And in that quiet place, God met him not in the wind, not in the earthquake, not in the fire, but in a gentle whisper. That whisper restored him. It reignited his vision. It reminded him that the mission was not over. And from that place of renewal, Elijah rose and completed the work God had given him. That's what happens when God fills you again. He restores your perspective. He realigns your heart. He reminds you of your why when the how feels too heavy. He puts the fire back into your worship, the joy back into your service, the clarity back into your decisions. You stop running on fumes and start running with purpose. You no longer drift aimlessly, reacting to whatever comes your way. You run your race with precision, fueled by the passion only He can give. And that passion is not just emotional excitement, it is holy fire. It is the steady, unwavering commitment to God's call that does not fade when feelings change. It is the kind of fire that keeps burning when the nights are long, when the work is hard, when the applause is absent. It is the fire that makes you love Him and serve Him when nobody is watching. That kind of fire cannot be manufactured by willpower. It is birthed and sustained in the presence of God. When your focus and fire are restored, you also regain joy in the journey. The enemy wants you to dread your calling, to see it as a burden instead of a gift. But renewal changes your perspective. You begin to see the privilege of serving the King, the honor of carrying His vision, the blessing of being part of His plan. That joy becomes strength, and that strength becomes momentum. Some of you have been trying to push forward without joy, without focus, without fire. You've been faithful, but you've also been running dry. You've been carrying the load, but your passion for it has been slipping away, and maybe you've told yourself, as long as I keep going, it's fine. But God doesn't just want you to go, He wants you to go with vision, with passion, with fire that draws others to Him. He wants you to run your race with the same joy you had when you first believed. Do not settle for a dim flame when the God who lit it in you is ready to fan it into a blazing fire again. Do not accept blurry vision when the one who called you is ready to open your eyes afresh. Come back to Him. Sit in His presence until the weight lifts, until the fog clears, until the fire burns again in your spirit. Because when you are full, focused, and on fire, nothing can stop you from finishing your race and finishing it well. When God fills you, He doesn't just strengthen your legs to run, He sharpens your eyes to see. He purifies your heart to believe, and He sets your soul ablaze so that every step is fueled by His joy. And with that combination of strength, clarity, and passion, you will not only run your race, you will finish it with victory. Stay filled, stay focused, and stay on fire for the race God has called you to run. Remember, His well never runs dry, His strength never fails, and His power is made perfect in you. Until we meet again, keep walking in His grace and living in His victory. God bless you.